afternoon. How's everyone doing? Good. Thank you. Welcome to the National Jazz Museum in Harlem. My name is Will Glass from the Jazz Foundation of America. We're pleased to be here for our Thursday afternoon live stream series. This is number 90-something. We started this during the pandemic as a way to do gigs with no audiences, and thank you. That's what it is. You can go to any other video and hear what I just said. There's many of them. But yeah, welcome to the Jazz Museum. We're presented by the Jazz Foundation of America today. If you don't know the Jazz Foundation, we're a national nonprofit dedicated to helping musicians. We have an emergency relief team that helps to keep food on the table and to keep bills paid when musicians face hard times. And we help by providing work opportunities in concerts all across the country, in all sorts of places, schools, nursing homes, parks, and community centers. And we have this wonderful two-city jazz museum series. You can see all our archives. There's a lot at the New Orleans Jazz Museum. They're there on Wednesday afternoons with our colleague Peter, who sets that up. And we're here on Thursdays. It's occasional Thursdays now. This is our last show of the summer. We will be back in September every week until Thanksgiving. So look forward to that. We're very pleased to be here today with our first concert with this very accomplished and talented saxophonist and band leader. He's played with many of the greats like Dr. Lonnie Smith and Jimmy Heath, longtime musical director for the late great Olatunji, and we're really pleased to welcome him here. This is Bradford Hayes and his quartet. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and thank you all for coming out to join us here at this wonderful spot here. This afternoon, you're going to listen to the quartet featuring Mr. Michael Cochrane on the piano, Mr. Takashi Otsuka on the bass, Mr. Joe Brown Jr. on the drums, and I'm yours truly, Bradford Hayes on the saxophone. Thank you very much. That was a gem by the great Bobby Timmons entitled Moanin'. And now we're going to play one of my originals. It was written for my baby girl. Her name is Bianca. And we're going to play Bianca's dance for you. We hope you enjoy it. 1, 2, you so much. That was Bianca's dance. I wrote it for her when she was a little girl, and she's not a little girl anymore. She's 24 years old, and I'm really proud of her. I'm proud. I got 3 children, thank God. I got twin boys and my daughter, and you know, me and my wife started late, so I was in my 40s when they were born, so now they still at the house living, eating up all my food. But we're going to be okay because I'm so proud of it. And that's Bianca's dance. Did y'all enjoy Bianca's dance? I'm so glad she did. You know, every time I play and she's around, she blushes. Even as a grown woman, she blushes. You know, how about it for Mike on the piano? Takashi on the bass. Joe Brown Jr. on the drums. And again, once again, I'm yours truly, forever and always, Bradford Hayes on the saxophone. And what I would like you all to do is I would like you to visit my website, which is www.bradfordhayes.com. Because like Will said, you know, we're musicians and sometimes it gets a little thin, you know, the bread gets a little thin. So I'm so grateful to them and the people in this organization to provide this space so we can make a little money and pay some bills, you know what I mean? We're gonna play something else. Y'all didn't come to hear me talk, y'all. Let's do Softly Sunrise and do it really laid back. 1, 2, Thank you so much. Thank you. Softly as in the morning sunrise. Now, a lot of people don't realize this about me. I'm not only a musician, but I'm a retired music educator. I taught music in Newark for 31 years before I retired. And the thing about it with me, I was very blessed because I worked with Olatunji and all the people while I was teaching school. So I had like a double life. I come to school 5 days and I'll be in Chicago this weekend. I come to school the next 5 days, I'll be in Houston the next weekend. And that went down especially when Baba, with Olatunji, we call him Baba, that was his name, Babatunde, when he could see. He eventually went blind, and as he started going blind, the gig slowed down. But when I first met him, it was purely by accident. These guys had this jam session at their house in Bloomfield, New Jersey, and a friend of mine used to play drums with me, Greg Servan, said, hey man, come to this jam session. So we went to this jam session, and in the basement, on the first floor, they had taken the living room and dining room, converted into a recording studio. So I'm playing down with the guys in the basement, and all of a sudden the guy who was running the session, his older brother, came downstairs. Who's playing the saxophone? I said, me. He says, somebody upstairs wants to meet you. And when I went upstairs, it was Olatunji and Odetta. And they were recording this record called The State of the Union. And I played on the record. I don't never know what happened to that record, but it was like an independent project. But he said, this was 1985. He says, I'm putting my band back together, and you sound so much Cochrane. I want you to play with me. I said, okay. So I gave him my home address, home phone number, and I gave him my work phone number. And I looked for the phone to ring the next week, and it never rang. I waited for 2 months later, it didn't ring. And a year later, it still didn't ring. 2 years later, the clerk in the office that calls me to the office says, you need to come to the phone. There's a person named Mr. O. I said, get somebody to come run my class. I went there, and he said, hey, man, I'm finally got to you because my wife and I, we had moved, and my old home number wasn't the same. I thank God that I gave him my work number. So he calls me and says, man, this was money. He said, can you make rehearsal with me tomorrow in New York? I said, yeah, I came over there. And it was really an audition. He had the cast in there, and they was in there, and then he finished, he said, does he make it? They said, yeah, he's good. So that weekend we were in Philly. The next weekend we were in Boston, and it just took off from that. And I'm a school teacher. And I'm also a boy that grew up in the farm in Virginia. I grew up in Dinwiddie County, Virginia on a farm. And if you told me in life that I would be where I've been, and the place going to Europe, going to Asia, going to Africa, and you'd have told me when I was a kid, I would have sworn you don't know what you're talking about. But it shows you the power of God and how he steers your steps. You know, because I know everything that happened in my life was God, you know. So, you enjoy that? Very good. Now, when I graduated from high school, I went to a school in North Carolina called North Carolina A&T State University. Aggie Pride, I always have to say it because it was the best thing, one of the best things that happened in my life. But while I was there, they used to have these concerts and down in the Carolina Theater off the Greensboro Coliseum. And one day they brought Freddie Hubbard down. And everybody said, Freddie Hubbard came to the school with his band. And most of the cats up here in New York, I know them now from way back then. And he said, who wants to drive Freddie Hubbard? So I drove them around, and I got a chance to be around Freddie Hubbard to see what kind of a person he was. He was larger than life. He really was. I mean, you didn't think Miles Davis had an ego. That was like, with Freddie, it was like everything was bigger than life, you know, but he was a great trumpet player. You know, he was like one of the, I'd say in the top 3 in history, if you look at the lyricism and the way he played. But I say that because we're getting ready to play a Freddie Hubbard composition entitled Up Jump Spring, and I hope you enjoy this. 1, 2, 3. very much. That was Up Jump Spring. I don't think we even had a spring. I think we went straight from winter right to summer. But you know what? It's still good to be alive to feel whatever it is. You know what I mean? I don't complain about anything anymore. Now, last month, the piano player, Michael, and I, we were honored to be a part of a project that we did in Newark. I don't know how many of y'all know who Gratian Moncoeur III was. Gratian Moncoeur III was a trombonist who was, him and Jackie McLean and Lee Morgan and Herbie and all of them, they were really good, tight friends back in the 60s, right? Gratian has these records out on Blue Note, but his personal life got kind of in the way of it, and he settled in Newark. He was from Newark, but he came back to Newark, and he didn't play as much as he should. But his wife, she found these compositions that he had written that had never been performed or recorded. So she asked me to put a band together, and we got what you call the Gratian Moncoeur III Legacy Band. And what we did was we played some of the songs. We're not going to play them today, but Gratian had a huge influence. When I first moved to New Jersey, I moved to Newark, and he lived there, and he was there. And, you know, I would see him all the time, and you wouldn't know who he was just walking down the street because you wouldn't know all the things he's accomplished. He's played records, Evolution, where all those guys were his sidemen, and he was the leader of the band. So we're going to play a composition by Gratian entitled The Coaster. And I recorded on my last recording, and Mama said, you can record whatever you want that you got it, you can record, but I'm going to play The Coaster for you, and I hope you understand, I hope you enjoy it. Gratian Moncoeur III, remember that name. If you haven't done it, just go Google the name, and you'll see all this information. That's one thing about this place. This is an educational place, you know, and there are people who lived in obscurity who are great musicians. Gratian's main thing was composition. He used to teach at a little private school in Newark, and I would drive him back and forth. And one day he says, I need you to go to Penn Station and pick up Jerry. And I said, man, I'm already driving you around. I got to go pick up somebody else? And he said, no, man, I need you to go pick up Jerry. When we got to Penn Station in Newark, it was Jerry Allen. And she was coming to study composition with Gratian. That's how deep he was with that pencil, okay? So we hope you enjoy The Coaster. Don't be out there. Thank you. How about it for Michael Cochrane again on the piano? Takashi Otsuka on the bass. Joe Brown Jr. on the drums. And I'm yours truly, Bradford Hayes on the saxophone. And again, we thank you so much for coming and spending this hour with us. And thank you, Will, and great people, the Jazz Foundation of America, and here at this beautiful museum. Thank you so much for coming out. You make us feel like stars. We're just musicians trying to pay the bills. We love what we do, and unfortunately, the music that we play is not the most popular music in the country anymore. So we do what we got to do. This week, I played at 3 different schools right here in this neighborhood doing Juneteenth programs this week. I work with this organization called Yafa Productions. It's not the band, it's not my band, but we were at PS 36, PS 133. The other Tuesday, we were at PS 61, right around the corner. All these schools right around the corner. And it's amazing how little the kids know about jazz. And they're right here in the foundation of it in this city, you know. So being a teacher, you know, I got educated and tell them, hey, man, you need to look up Louis Armstrong and Duke Ellington. If you don't look up nothing else, those two will lead them to everybody else. You know, as long as they do it. And so the teachers, I said, you need something to do with the kids since they're in school. Do a project, have them write about, you know, these people, turn them on. And half the teachers, when I say jazz, everybody looked at me like I had 3 heads. I was like, no, you can't live in Harlem and not understand what jazz is. It's a school system. A lot of it's in the house, too. A lot of it's in the house, you know. They're not going to know unless we tell them. So that's why places like this are so important. And Will, again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for bringing us here, man. Because I've been on him. I've been on him. I said, Will, you got some gigs for me? He called me out the clip and said, Brad, I finally got you one. I said, okay, if you're going to come to the museum, and I'm thanking it again, thank you so much for joining us, okay? Thank you so much.
All right, one more time for Bradford Hayes and his amazing quartet. Thanks so much for being here. If you're here in the museum, please support them. They're so accommodating to the whole community, but not just with this series, but with rehearsals and all kinds of programming throughout the year. Please support them. The Jazz Foundation is taking a break from here for the rest of the summer. We're very busy out in the park, so if you want to see what we're up to, go to jazzfoundation.org or follow us on social media. We'll be back with this series September 4th for a fall run, as I mentioned, but we're also doing our Monday Night Jam here. That happens once a month, the 4th Monday of the month. We have a wonderful house band led by Kim Clark, and a great assortment of musicians come through. The next one is July 28th, and it's always the 4th Monday, so join us for that. And otherwise, have a great summer. Thanks so much for being here. Be well, thanks.
Thank you.